Well, I do want to ask you, as far as locker room etiquette, I know that we've talked about the Steve Austin Booker T deal. Did you feel like the locker room etiquette was off when they tried to integrate with the WWE, or is that just overhyped? Was there a problem assimilating? Like, were there policies or best practices that the WWE did that those guys in WCW just weren't privy to or they didn't do?
They had a different culture than we did. And so it was a little different, but there wasn't heat there. I mean, I was in the locker room with Palumbo and O'Hara a bunch because me and Ron worked with them. Super nice guys, really nice guys. There was no issue as far as me and Ron were concerned. I don't think there was with anybody else. They were just new guys. I mean, it's not like we hate you because you're not one of us. We're all the boys, if things had been different, we'd be working with WCW and we'd be the ones coming into WWE when they got bought. It just happened that we ended up with WWE and the roles were reversed. So I don't remember there being a problem with especially those guys you mentioned. They were fine in the dressing room. The boys liked them. They were fun guys. They went out with us. They were fun guys.
I just know sometimes guys can get territorial about their spot.
The idea, of course, about the spot. Yeah, of course, about the spot. Now that's different. I mean, that's different about the spot. I'm talking about just the integration of the boys being the boys. They were fine. But as far as the spot, yeah, anybody that comes in new, you kind of side eye them to.
Yes, I do want to ask. When you start working with some of these guys, and again, we're not acting like they're rookies. They're some of the all-time greats. But it is worth addressing. WCW had a different size ring than the WWF. And the ropes were different. And, at least at first, once upon a time, the rings were built differently. I know that maybe has changed over time, but certainly we've heard that, it was easier to take a bump on a WCW ring than a WWF ring. But the ropes being actual ropes and not cables and the size difference, it does feel like if you're in a rhythm and you have some muscle memory about a certain number of steps in order to do a move, that takes a minute to retrain your brain about, or am I overthinking that, John?
They got a little lucky because our stiff rings had been replaced already. I mean, we had the rings, it was Dick Ebersol from NBC, one of the tighter rings because they thought they moved too much on Saturday Night's Main Event. But he had Yokozuna, who was 700 pounds, bumping in it. There's a big difference. Those rings, when I first got there, I mean, they were like concrete. They were unbelievably hard. It was the hardest rings I'd ever. Reminds people talk about the Kill ring down in St. Louis. It had to be that ring couldn't have been any harder than the rings we had when we first got there. So the rings were good rings when WCW came in. The size didn't matter, but I've been in a lot of rings, from 22-foot rings to rings that had 2-foot aprons. You adjust pretty quick. It's not that big a deal. I mean, and these guys are all athletes. When you're talking about guys like you mentioned, guys like Bill DeMott, guys like Chuck Palumbo, Sean O'Hare. I mean, those guys, Booker T, DDP, those guys were really good athletes, terrific athletic guys. I don't think they had much problem. I'd be surprised if they said they did, but I don't think they had much problem.
Eventually, we see Booker T sort of get pushed out of the WCW title picture. He's going to become more of a comedic persona, so we're going to see some tag stuff and just some different iterations for Booker T. But he does get a pretty high-profile WrestleMania match in 2003. That'll be the WrestleMania in Seattle. He's going to be working against the Raw Heavyweight Champion Triple H. People have been really, really critical of the presentation and some of the language and stuff like that. Did you think at the time that they were taking this stuff too far? Or are we creating content for the moment?
I don't know if you saw what I just said in Mexico. Are you really asking me if they took it too far?
I love you for that. Thank you for that. Well said.
Look, I was there for the whole thing. I know what people have said and all this crap. It's either a work or it isn't. And if it is a work, then there's nothing wrong with it. If it's not a work, there's a lot wrong with it. There's a lot wrong with it if it's not a work. A lot wrong with me if it's not a work. But it's a work. And you got guys being bad guys. Was it in bad taste? Of course it was. That's called being a heel. And I don't have any issue with that. And Booker understood it was a work too. I remember when I do some stuff with Eddie and some different guys, and I was going to say something really strong. Occasionally I would give him a heads up. Is that okay? or sometimes with Eddie, he was giving me stuff that was almost beyond strong. And I'm like, Eddie, you're going to get me killed. And he'd go, oh, SA, good heat. But I would run stuff by him. I remember when I wrestled with Shawn Michaels, he asked me a couple things not to say about his family, and I didn't. And, it wasn't a big deal, but when everybody understands it's a work, I don't have a problem with that. And those guys who look back in history and go, oh, he did this because Triple H is a Hunter, or Paul Levesque is a bad guy. Give me a freaking break. It's a work.
Well, listen, I'm not arguing any of that at all, but I would say you used to talk a lot of smack, but then in the end you lost. That guy won. Yep. And in this case, Triple H his character was talking down to the Booker T character, and then he beat the Booker T character. I feel like we all had the natural assumption that, okay, he's, taking the L right now, but in the end, he's going to win. He's going to be triumphant in all this. And that didn't wind up being the case. If you had it to do over again, wouldn't you have put the title on Booker T here at WrestleMania?
Knowing Booker, baby. Yeah. I don't remember what they did with Triple H at the time. I remember watching the first season of Game of Thrones, and I remember when they had Ned Stark, they're about to cut off his head. And I thought, somebody's going to give him a reprieve here at the last minute. All of a sudden, they cut off his head. Like, you're kidding me. They just killed the freaking star of the guy. I love that guy. I'm not going to watch this show anymore. Then the next week, I'm watching it again because I can't quit watching. Sometimes bad guys win. That's life. If you're in the cartoon world and all these little snowflakes out there, want the cartoon, you want the Wile E. Coyote to get it at the end and never get the road runner. What if he gets the road runner, cooks him, and eats him? Sorry, that's life. Cartoons is fire bad, water good. It's very simple. That's what people want a lot of times in wrestling. Life isn't that way. I have no problem with putting a heel over, with heel getting heat and then a heel going over. It depends on what you're going to do with that heel afterwards. I don't remember what they did with Triple H afterwards, but he had obviously a great, terrific run after that. So did Booker. So I don't think there's a problem here. I don't think it has to be tit for tat. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this, and then you're going to get it back, and everybody's going to end up even. We're all going to be happy. I don't think people have to be happy. I think it's a performance, and I think you're doing something to set something in motion for something else. And when you do that, if it's all predictable, then there's no real surprise. But when Ned Stark gets his head cut off, all of a sudden people are interested in Game of Thrones going, this is different. And I think that was different then.
It just clicked for me in such a big way why you and Bruce are such good friends. If you closed your eyes right there, it sounded like I was listening to Bruce Prichard. It was a classic Prichard rant. Don't we all love summer vacation, relaxing, laying out by the pool, barbecues, hitting the beach, doing, nothing? Well, how about a summer vacation from your house payments? With SaveWithConrad.com, you can do just that. Reduce your monthly payments by making the equity you built up in your home work for you. You can roll together those high interest rate credit cards into one lower monthly payment and perhaps access some of that newfound equity to turn your house into your dream home with no money out of pocket. And how about this? You get to skip your next 2 house payments. That's right. You won't have to make your June or your July house payment. You're done until August 1st. Go right now to SaveWithConrad.com. Let my team run the numbers for you for free. There's no obligation, and if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. And did I mention we're offering a 3-year guarantee right now? That's right. That means if at any point interest rates improve over the next 3 years, you get a free refi. That's right. No new lender fees from us. So you get to save money now without wasting money later when the rates improve on a whole second set of closing costs. Why not go to SaveWithConrad.com and get a guarantee? Save money now and save money later with your friend in the mortgage business. That's me, Conrad Thompson at SaveWithConrad.com. Shoot me an email at Conrad@SaveWithConrad.com. Give us a call at 888-425-0105 or get yourself a quick quote. Even talk to a live person right now at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender. Let's take a summer vacation from house payments at SaveWithConrad.com.